if this virtual background thing is working, but I don't think it's working. Do I look funny?
Yeah, that was how I looked yesterday.
I look funny,
Very
right?
very
Oh my
good morning,
goodness.
everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, so let me take it off. Let me try and take it off. It's not working.
Yes, this was my experience last night as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I
Yeah.
actually
Morning.
found it, so I'm not happy
Good
at all
morning.
about this type of issues, but it's okay. Good morning, everyone. How are we this morning?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are
We're
you?
managing. Yeah.
I'm good. It's nice to have everyone on early. Okay, Mukund is not here yet.
Yeah, I think my light is too bright.
Come on, print this thing. I think it's even better.
I learned silk. What are you saying there? You're whispering something.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Adetola. How are you?
To be
Well, everyone looking all good and ready.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think your background is great.
I just tried the virtual screen, and honestly speaking, it was oh.
Just for that. Good morning, everyone.
morning.
Toby, you're here. Welcome.
Yes, but I mean,
I think it's
I'm
just
still working on that
Mukund.
stuff.
Yes, it's Mukund.
Let me try.
Any moment. Yes, maybe you want to try and reach out to him.
Okay.
I would like to start at 10:45 on the dot.
Yes.
If you don't mind.
No, I'm sure you'll go live. So the system is programmed. Toby and I will drop off. Well, we'll be dropped off by the technical people anyway. It will go live immediately at 10:45.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah, I have lightning issues. Looks very dark. Okay.
I have curtains. You can open them. That's what I did.
Sorry?
If you have like curtains, just open them.
Yes, it's open.
That's what I had to do. I just opened all my curtains.
Okay, right. Mukund is connected now.
I have all sorts of lamps here. Spot lamp, all sorts of lamps.
No, but you look very nice. You look
thank you. Thank you. I had to get the dogs chained so they don't disrupt.
We had that. We had that this morning. I'm sure you listened from Professor Mugai.
No, I didn't, because
dog was a bit of a problem.
Oh, it was, and there are 4 of them, so I had to tell my kids to move them somewhere else.
Have you paid the kids pocket money? Because if you haven't,
I don't like them. They wanted the pet, so yeah, they're trouble. Yeah, but your background looks very good.
I think all of us got this background, right? And this is what I think we were requested to put up. So I've just put it up.
And they told her what is going on. Is this discrimination, marginalization?
No. See, Mukund has it on. It looks good. I think it's just to click the link.
How did he do it? I did it, but it didn't work. Mukund, how did you do it?
I just went to video. I'll tell you, I went to video settings. And in video settings, I went to background and filters.
Yeah. I don't think it's on. Things on the part of the panelists. It's probably a glitch. It's a glitch.
Oh, there you go. Oh.
But it's changing my face. That's what I don't get. Am I missing something?
Yes.
Move your face. Move it around. Let's.
You're too close. You're too close to the thing behind you, and it.
Oh, is that why?
Yeah, you're too close to what's behind you, I think.
Oh, I'm too close to what's behind me.
Yeah. Okay, no, that didn't work either. That's arguable.
It's not working. It's not working.
That's scary. Let's forget it.
Okay, well, let's not use it. At least.
Yes, please. Your background is fine enough.
It needs
to represent the panel.
Yeah. It needs an absolutely plain background behind you. So, for example, it wouldn't work with books or if you have a painting or curtains. I have a white wall behind me, so it's working. But otherwise,
right.
That could also be a factor. Saying something about having a green wall, does that make a difference?
Yeah, it does. If you have a green wall of the right tone and the camera picks it up and it replaces it with whatever you want, it's actually fantastic.
Okay.
Well, I think
Okay.
we're good.
Learning. We'll rise and shine.
We will. We will.
Okay, there isn't much to say. We had a long session yesterday. Walla, we've primed the technical guys, for the poll. So
Okay.
we'll be following once you request for it.
I don't need to see the poll. I
No?
just want, so the poll questions don't need to come to me. Are they going to come to me? The question.
No, so I imagine once you request that the poll be put up, the technical people will put it up. Toby.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. I actually just want them to put, I wish somebody could tell them. I want them to put it up when there's a relevance. Toby, can't you do that for me? Okay, Toby won't be here. Tola, are you going to be here?
We'll both be here.
Okay, so if you could just
all-
have them put it up at intervals, it doesn't really matter. It's just, and then let me get the results.
Okay.
Just pick a good moment, put it up. I don't want to keep coming up and saying put up the poll. No. I'd rather not have that interrupt the session. I may talk
I'm trying to
about.
see if I have access to the poll here. The poll is being controlled from the MBA conference account. Okay, let me check behind the scenes on what to do in that regard.
Okay.
The second, please.
So just to confirm, we won't be able to see those who join, right?
If you want to,
Ideally,
you can check the attendees.
Okay.
But the chat box will be active, and from the experience this morning, during the Q&A session, you can just, I'm sure you can see that icon, chat, there's
Yes, I
chat,
can.
there's
Now look.
Q&A,
Yes.
right? So you just click and pull out questions.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So currently what's going on now on the main screen is an intermission. The idea is that by 10:45 sharp, we go live.
Yes.
What I'm not sure of though, Toby, do we have
Yes.
to drop off? Otherwise, we will be showing on the main screen. No?
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
We'll monitor things from outside nonetheless.
Yeah.
I think you can send questions. If you have anything to say, you can actually just send it to the participants. I'm sorry, to the panelists directly, I believe so.
How do you mean?
I mean, if you guys have something to tell us, I'm just thinking.
Yeah, my worry is that you'll be engrossed with the session. You might not look at your
Be able
phone.
to pick it out. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I was thinking of the Q&A. There's an option to send to the panelists only, I believe. Well, you would know better. Let me not assume.
Yeah, it appears open. Well, we wouldn't want to distract you anyway, so.
Yes, it's fine. I'm just, since you guys had to drop off, that's what I was saying. Okay. Reginald, is Honorio Day your other name?
Yes, Honorable is my first name.
All right. Well, you prefer Reginald. Everybody seems to call you Reginald.
That's correct. It's easier of the names to pronounce, I think.
I guess so. It is. And the last name is Aziza.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Mukund, your last name is Dar. The H is silent, right?
I've never thought about that actually. It is Dhar. Yes, it's Dhar.
You're on, right? You're on it. Okay, that's fine. Not a problem. Okay.
I just realized I'm underdressed for this, so I'm going to put a jacket on.
Don't worry, we like you that way.
We like you just as you are.
Yeah, just as you are.
Just be comfortable.
So how long is the session meant to last for?
It's an hour, 30 minutes. So there'll be a
Isn't the
Q&A.
fee-
I need coffee, coffee, and water. Okay, let me call my son.
NBA should send all of us water and coffee now.
That's not a problem. We boast of a very buoyant. The problem will be delivery anyway.
And so that means you have not delivered now. If you don't get the service, then that means you've not done anything for us. Abby, don't worry, I'm just messing with you.
So we'll be going live in another 30 seconds.
Madawola, you're looking very, very pretty.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm very nice things to say just before I'm going live to calm the nerves.
No, we'll be okay.
Okay.
Okay, I'll be dropping off now. And Toby as well. All the best, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm
All right, thank you,
starting now.
sirs and moms. All the best.
Thank you. I'm starting now. It's 10:45. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I warmly welcome you to this panel session. I trust that you have been enjoying every bit of the virtual conference for this year. Although this virtual conference is the first of its kind, majorly as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, I believe a good number of us are praying and hoping that it is the last of such conference models. Over time, the NBA conference has been an opportunity to physically connect with our longtime friends from the university and law school. While the pandemic may have denied us this opportunity this year, we are glad that it did not take away the learning platforms that the NBA conference provides, such as this panel session. My name is Wala Joseph, and while my everyday job is the Chief Legal Officer of EcoDisco, Eco Electricity Distribution PLC, today I have been tasked with the highest honor of moderating this panel discussion amongst these vibrant, learned, well-respected panelists who are all pace setters in their respective endeavors. The theme for the panel session is Rise and Shine. We will be getting varied perspectives from this panel of experts and professionals on how lawyers, particularly young law professionals, can rise above the challenges posed by the novel coronavirus pandemic. That said, kindly permit me to introduce the panelists. We have Mr. Oyetola Atoyebi, SAN, who is presently regarded as the youngest lawyer in the history of Nigeria to be elevated to the rank of Senior Advocate of Nigeria. At the age of 34, he was conferred with the prestigious rank in September 2019. Mr. Atoyebi, SAN, graduated from the Law Faculty of the prestigious University of Ilorin in 2007 and was called into the Nigerian bar in 2008. As the managing partner of Omaplex Law Firm, he's the team lead of the emerging areas of practice of the firm and one of the leading senior advocates of Nigeria in information technology, cybersecurity, fintech, and artificial intelligence. Earlier in the year, he sponsored the Young Lawyers Forum national essay competition focused on professional development of young lawyers. Mr. Mukund Dar is a partner of the London office of White & Case LLP and works in the project development and finance practice, focusing on power, oil and gas, and infrastructure sectors, especially in Africa and other emerging markets. His work involves working with and collaborating with lawyers and law firms from across the world. He's keenly interested in legal education. He and other partners and White & Case facilitate annual trainings for law students in Africa in partnership with the African Center for Law and Ethics at the Gimpa Law School in Ghana. Mr. Dar completed his BA LLB honors at the National Law School of India University. He has been based in London from 2006 and worked in the Johannesburg office of White & Case from 2014 to 2016. Mr. Dar is also enrolled as a solicitor of the Senior Courts of England and Wales. On the panel, we also have Ms. Doyne Pierce. Adedoyin is the General Counsel and Company Secretary for Siemens Nigeria Limited, the Nigerian affiliate of Siemens AG, offering fully integrated world-class products, solutions, and services across the energy value chain. She holds a first degree in law from the University of Lagos and an LLM in energy law and policy from the University of Dundee, Scotland, UK. Adedoyin has also completed several executive education and leadership programs from high-profile institutions, including most recently an executive course in legal technology and innovation at the IE Law School, Madrid. She's currently enrolled as an executive MBA candidate at George's Business School, University of Cambridge, United Kingdom. We also have Mr. Reginald Aziza. He's a lawyer in the legal division of the Chevron Nigeria Limited, my apologies, and a doctoral candidate in financial regulation in the University of Oxford. Prior to this, he worked in leading law practices in Lagos, London, and Paris in a career spanning corporate and project finance, capital markets, litigation and commercial and investment arbitration. In his current role, he provides tailored legal support to Chevron Nigeria Limited in a broad range of complex, contentious, and transactional matters. Reginald holds first-class law degrees from each of the Obafemi Awolowo University, the Nigerian Law School, and the specialized Masters of Corporate Law degree in the University of Cambridge. He was recently recognized as one of the 10 outstanding young persons in Nigeria by JCI Nigeria in 2018, and as one of the top 40 under 40 lawyers in Nigeria at the ESQ Nigerian Legal Awards in 2009. The panel session is divided into 3 sections. In the first half of the session, I'll give a brief background to the topic and also ask preliminary questions to the panelists, just to set the tone for more in-depth discussions on the topic. In the second part of the session, I'll be asking core questions around the topic to the different panelists for their opinions. And in the last part of the session, we will open up the floor to allow you, everyone watching, to ask questions to the panelists, after which we will conclude. Great, so let us start with the discussion. I will give my very brief opening remarks and then start with asking the questions, the introductory questions to the panelists. Just as the saying, children are the leaders of tomorrow, undoubtedly, also budding and young law professionals, including those still in the university at the Nigerian Law School, and those in their early years of practice are the future of both the bar and the bench. There's some wisdom in the argument that the younger generation has not fully taken over the political affairs of the country because they've not been well equipped for it. The pitiable state of our educational system and huge employment deficit for graduates breathes life to this argument. Regardless of what the actual position may be, the fact remains that we do not want any excuses for why our budding and young lawyers are unable to fully take their place as the future of the bar and the bench. They must be equipped to rise and shine, no more, no less. COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted almost every sector of the economy, and be rest assured that our profession has not been left out of the pandemic's onslaught. Legal education, both at undergraduate and graduate levels, has been halted. Legal practice for in-house counsels, law firms, and those attached to government ministries, departments, and agencies have also suffered a downtime. As we are all aware, the business environment has a bearing on the financial vibrancy of the legal profession. A booming business environment translates into more briefs, transactions, economic activities, economic activities. COVID-19 has impacted the business environment harshly globally, and this has also had its toll on our profession. Many lawyers have generally suffered furloughs, layoffs, pay cuts, and other financial woes as a result of the pandemic. However, because of their position in the value chain, many young lawyers have been affected the most. While the intention is not to focus on the despairs of the pandemic, We cannot also act ignorant to it, especially as knowledge is pivotal to planning and devising a solution. The question then is, how can lawyers rise above the challenges posed by the pandemic? More like making lemonade out of lemons. How best can budding and young law professionals position themselves to shine despite the pandemic? We will explore various issues around learning and mentoring for lawyers, knowledge and skill sets that offer a competitive advantage, the need for lawyers to be business and tech savvy, as well as opportunities that are available to lawyers in today's world. This panel, which is more than up to the task, will be unpacking and talking us through these critical issues. We will be learning from their personal experiences, how lawyers can remain resilient, adaptable, and profitable during and after the pandemic. Before we dive fully into the central questions, as I said earlier, I'd just like to invite each panelist to please give their opening remarks. I will be starting with the Leonard Silk on the panel. Mr. Oyetola Muyiwa Atoyebi SAN. Leonard Silk. Yes, rise and shine. Why this topic? And how important is it in the light of the challenges being faced globally and particularly for young lawyers and professionals?
Thank you, Madam Wola, moderator. I appreciate you for the session, and thank you to the President of the Nigerian Bar Association, the TCC, and of course, every other panelist here. And of course, also all the attendees, thank you so much for being part of us, because it's possible to just be here and not, of course, speaking to anybody. But to the main issue, rising and shining anyways, or rise and shine as it is. With the pandemic that we have, or the issues that have actually come up in recent times, one will notice that a lot of things are changing, and the approach of people to issues are actually also changing. And for me, in my place, they say it's when you wake up that your morning starts. And so for us young lawyers, this is an opportunity for us to rise and shine, rise up to the occasion. There's a lot, of course, the global pandemic, the issues as regards artificial intelligence, climate change, ecological collapse, overpopulation, biodiversity. These are burning issues that it only takes a mind that can think about it to be able to do stuff about it. And of course, when there are issues, they're usually meant to be solutions to it. And for the young lawyers, now that we have such challenges, it is time for us to rise up to the occasion and ensure that we provide solutions so that it's not all gloom that we all are seeing. This is a time for us as young lawyers to be able to ensure that we give solutions to these problems. And if you notice around, like the moderator said, lawyers, of course, young lawyers are the future of tomorrow. But if you do not key up into it, which brings me to exactly where I'm going to, in the midst of all the challenges and of course, opportunities, if we keep complaining, then we will not be able to rise up to and take advantage of these that we will. This is for us as young lawyers to begin to develop capacity, personal capacities in different spheres of the practice, and begin to widen your horizon and don't be limited to a box, because what we're used to now is being boxed into a particular mindset. So for me, we need to begin to rise, and we need to begin to shine, begin to explore opportunities and ensure that your name is written in the sand of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leonard Silk. If I can just pick a few things you've mentioned, is that there should be less complaints and more of developing our personal capacity. Thank you very much, Leonard Silk. Mr. Mukund Dar. The practice of law across Africa appears to be structured along the lines of national and regional blocks. There's also the problem of a lack of coordinated approach to legal education for law professionals in the continent. How do you think we can move towards an integrated approach of legal education in Africa? And what benefits, if any, will this approach present to young law professionals across the continent?
Thank you very much for that. I think the first point is that while I agree that the practice of law across Africa is structured along national lines and regional blocks, I would argue this is not unique to Africa. I mean, if you look across the world, this is the way the practice of law is structured. The law in that we practice in France is different from Canada, is different from Brazil, etc. And even within Europe, you have different blocks. That having been said, I think, and drawing perhaps on what Learned Silk said just now, I think you are onto something when you ask about the integrated approach to law. We talk about this a lot, but actually, it was only as recently, I think, as the 2000s that people started talking about an integrated approach.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Yes, sir. Fine. Good morning. We are overwhelmed on all sides.
Toby, somebody's phone is not muted. Thank you.
And I think, when we talk about an integrated approach, we are talking about, firstly, an acknowledgement that there has to be knowledge, which is books, which is a university environment, which is learning things, which I think is the point that Learned Silk made, was don't limit yourself just to books, which brings you to the second aspect of what they call the integrated approach, which was practice, which is learning from professionals. And those professionals don't have to be professionals from within your country or the neighboring country. They are professionals from across your region, across the world, who you can learn the practice of law from. And the third aspect was professionalism, which was the notion that you need to identify a purpose other than simply it being a job, or what are the values of the profession? How is the profession, what are the attitudes that guide you in your interaction with your clients, with justice, with contracts, with your work? And so it's all of these three things together which represent the integrated approach. And whether you secure that integrated approach in your jurisdiction, whether you have a free trade bloc and you secure it in the context of a broader free trade area, it goes without saying that I certainly can't imagine anything other than an integrated approach. Just one last point that I want to make, in particular around the notion that you have to be ready for practice outside of just knowing the law. Particularly in today's world, learning on the job is no longer as feasible as it used to be a long time back. Clients expect you to know, clients expect you to deliver. Artificial intelligence, outsourcing, standardization is taking away a lot of work that young lawyers would do. And so one could argue that you need to come to work pre-equipped to deal with all of this. And that is what an integrated approach would help with, so that you can be quicker and faster to start working. But I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Mukunda. And you made a lot of very valid points, in terms of having a one approach to legal practice all over Africa. That may be a bit difficult, as that's how it is all over the world, considering the climes. However, young lawyers need to also broaden their minds and try to learn from other climes. That gives them an advantage out there. And you also mentioned no jurisdictional boundaries in knowledge. You can go out of Nigeria and learn about the African, the UK EU laws, for instance, or like you have done, Indian law, and all of that. That's a very good and valid point. I thought it would be good for you to even shed more light on the annual training, which is facilitated by White and Case with the African Center for Law and Ethics at the Gimpa Law School in Ghana. Considering we have a lot of young audience, just to give them an insight into what the training is about, if you could just say something about that, please.
Sure, very quickly. So the legal ethics training program is an intense sort of course over a number of days, which aims at acquainting students with the main principles and rules that govern professional legal practice. So when I did it, it was being run by the African Center on Law and Ethics, and I think it was in Accra. I know that it moved to Rwanda the following year, and I know that it rotates. The program rotates and goes to different countries. It embraces areas like regulation of the legal profession, lawyer-client relationships? How do you screen and engage clients? How do you deal with conflicts of interest, confidentiality? What is corporate social responsibility in context of a young lawyer's work? Pro bono, which all of us know about, and I think fundamentally most of us are committed to. How do you actually operationalize pro bono? Why is it important? So it's meant to be a practical rather than an academic course. It does not look at philosophical or moral grounds of professional ethics, because I think we get that in university. But what I think it talks about how ethical rules are implemented in context of practice, commercial work, firms, small firms, big firms, how do they deal with issues of conflicts? And the training is very interactive, or at least we'd like to think it is.
Thank you very much, Mukund. I hope that your firm will be considering the Nigerian Law School for very soon. For this type of training. I'm sure a lot of the young lawyers would like to benefit from it. Ms. Doing Pierce, you recently did an excellent piece, which I read, I found very thoughtful, and you made very thoughtful recommendations on rethinking legal education for the 21st century lawyer in today's marketplace. Taking the discussion further, how do you think discussions on a topic like this will benefit innovations to legal education in Nigeria and across Africa? What are the other areas of education which are critical for the growth and development of the Nigerian lawyer?
Thank you, Wala. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the compliments on the article. Good morning, my co-panelists. Good morning, the audience. It's really an interesting time to be alive. So much happening around the world, and particularly in the legal marketplace. Like Mukund has said, the world has also changed. The real marketplace right now wants ready-made lawyers who are ready to work right after law school. So what that means is that any reform of the legal education system has to focus on a holistic learning experience for students, such that, once they're out of school or from law school, they are ready, they have the required skill sets, the competencies, and, all the skills that is required for them to function in the marketplace. Is that the situation we have right now? I doubt it. And what triggered the article itself was based on feedback I had received from some young lawyers I'm mentoring. Of course, I also have new recruits in my department, and of course, a lot of employers have also complained about the quality of graduates, being churned out, from the university, and how they've had to spend, huge resources on learning and development in the first 2 years, in the early years of their engagement. On the other hand, young lawyers, students are also complaining. They're frustrated that they've spent 5 or 6 years of their life within the 4 walls of the university and law school. They've expended enormous resources, costs, and only for them to be out of the market and they find out that they have dated skill sets, essentially they are not ready to work. So I believe this platform is the gathering of lawyers from the entire legal ecosystem, from lawyers to practitioners, to the members of the academia, to new wigs. We have all the stakeholders in the ecosystem well represented, and I think this provides the right platform for us to have such open, frank, collaborative conversations on this topic, which appears hasn't really been on the front burner. You hear about the changes, technology, you hear about the new face of legal practice, but somehow, the curricula or, the seemingly dated curricula that we have, it's not usually out there in the public. So it provides that platform for us to have such open, collaborative conversations. More importantly, look at the issues, what are the challenges, and profile solutions on the way forward. And for me, map out steps, actionable, measurable steps on what needs to be done. So this time next year, whenever we meet, we can actually benchmark where we are, and we're not having the same conversations anymore. More importantly, I also want to hear from the stakeholders. I believe We have the policymakers also in attendance. We have the regulators, the Council of Legal Education representatives, of this, those in charge of developing the curricula. I think it would be good to also hear from them. Perhaps maybe there are ongoing initiatives going on which we are not aware of. And if they can speak to that, I think, this platform is just the right platform to have such conversations. I need to make 2 points. It's not I won't write off the system. I think it will be a lot of injustice to say that the educational or the legal educational system is a complete write-off. It has actually produced excellent lawyers, practitioners, even looking at, the panelists, there are quite a lot that have products. Even Reginald himself finished from OAU. So it's not that we are writing off completely the system we have, but we just need to ensure that there is no disconnect between the real marketplace and, the skill sets and competencies we're developing within the 4 walls of the educational institutions. On the next topic, I think you had raised a very crucial topic on the areas of education that are critical for the growth and development of the Nigerian lawyers. I think over time, there has been too much focus on theory, just like I articulated in the article, too much focus on, theory, doctrinal knowledge, emphasis on standardized tests and assessment as a way of measuring performance. So as a result, you find out that people just go to school, garbage in, garbage out, read through, give back the lecturer, finish with my first class, and I'm out. Same thing at the law school as well. And unfortunately, today's legal marketplace has changed completely. If that had worked 10 years ago, sorry, it's bad news. It's the legal marketplace has changed. And the skill sets that we need today in today's legal marketplace is completely different from what, the sort of orientation we have had over the years. And that's why, graduates come out and, there's a shock in the system. So what are the skills we need now? To know the skills we need, we even need to know what are even the futures. What is the legal marketplace like right now? And what are we seeing? We are seeing rapid digitalization, business models are changing, customer preferences are changing. So much is happening at the speed of light. So much changes is, it's going on. And now there's emphasis on other skills, other competencies beyond just, your knowledge of law. So for me, knowledge of law is like a baseline right now. You need additional skills, competencies for you to be able to even proffer advice to customers in the real legal marketplace as we have and today. And what are those skills? I'll just quickly run through. You need beyond your core knowledge of law, which is now the baseline, you need additional skills. You need business skills. You must be able to speak the language of the business. You must be able to know the industry your customers operate. You must be able to know what the pain points of your customers are. You must also be financially literate. Gone are the days where lawyers, even I also fall within that category. I ran away from maths. I was just not, I just didn't have a flair for numbers. But those days are gone. You need to be able to pick up financial statements, interpret financial statements. You need to be able to look at your budgets, and beyond that, we also need entrepreneurial skills. The reality of today's marketplace is that we don't have enough jobs to accommodate all the graduates, and we need to get more entrepreneurial. So, and we're seeing a lot of career paths along that way as well. More importantly, we're seeing, doctrinal knowledge in emerging areas like cybersecurity. I'm sure the Learned Silk will be happy to hear that. We are seeing blockchain, a lot of new technologies are just coming in. Now, data protection is a big issue. You must even be licensed to even provide certain services out there. So, these are, hard skills which, any lawyer that wants to work in today's legal marketplace must have. Above all, you must also be very technological savvy. I think that's given. COVID has exposed that. Even my 82-year-old mother now knows how to operate, join meetings, church meetings via Zoom. So how much more new wigs? We need to be very techie savvy to be able to flourish in today's digital world. You must be able to use new tools, new legal tech tools out there, So what am I saying? And above all, you must also be able to use data. Data is the new is the new oil. And a lot of law firms, practitioners were sitting on gold, on raw crude oil. So how do we make use of that data? How are we able to process the data? How are we able to interpret and gain insights from the data? Any lawyer of tomorrow, of today, must be able to use data and must be able to gain insights and convert those insights into opportunities. So basically, these are the new skills that are critical for growth for Nigerian lawyers. And just one more point, we need to also emphasize on the soft skills. Over time, the university system didn't even recognize soft skills at all. Soft skills are really very important in today's legal marketplace. You must be able to collaborate. You must be a team player. The days of working in silo, being the superstar, those days are gone. You must be able to work, with cross-functional teams. You must be empathetic. You must have problem-solving skills. Any lawyer that cannot provide creative solutions, to the needs of any client is really not a 21st century lawyer, But I hope we'll discuss, further in the discussions. We'll elaborate more on this.
I'm sure the participants can see that you have a lot to tell them already as it is. One of the critical things I see that you emphasized on in everything you said is the disconnect between the education and the real world. That's the legal education and the real world out there. And I think in emphasizing the skills you listed out, you can see that a lot of all those skills are not taught in school. As a matter of fact, you don't do anything in math or finance after the secondary school. In university, there's nothing like that. At law school, there's nothing like that. So really, when we speak to the changes that need to be done from the legal education aspect, those are things that need to actually be looked into. Thank you very much, Dwayne. Let me just go to the next panelist, Mr. Reginald Aziza. And this is another person that did another fantastic article, and you had analysis and recommendations in your recent article titled "Towards Better Remuneration for Nigerian Legal Practitioners, a Market-Based Solution." And this has actually endeared you to virtually all young law professionals, and rightly so. I read that article and I can understand. That's something that I'm not sure I've seen any other lawyer talk about or write about. So tell us, can young law professionals across the value chain indeed shine with the present salary and remuneration benefits in the legal markets?
Good morning, co-panelists. Good morning, participants. Thank you very much for having me. And it's really an honor to be here and to share a stage with the ladies and gentlemen on the panel today. I think in answer to the question, I think a short answer from me would be no. And the reason is that a person who is living or working under undignified conditions really and truly cannot be the most effective advocate for the dignity of other people. A person who is financially crippled can neither rise nor shine. The person cannot step forward, as the conference theme suggests. So the environment already creates some limitations. I think the broader question, which is where we can start adding value to the conversation, is on what can be done about this. Now, my commentary recently examined things from the employer side to say, well, the market currently is not providing incentives for employers to remunerate better. Can we get the markets to put in those incentives? But that's one part of the conversation. Perhaps the second part of the conversation is in regards to what young law professionals themselves can be doing despite the environment they find themselves in. And that's perhaps where this conversation of today becomes important. And that's why the discussions that we have heard come out from the learned SN, Mukund, and Ms. Pierce provide us with good information, because we need to be able to demonstrate the skills and competencies that 21st century law professionals should have to make a difference. And perhaps if young professionals then have those skills, then despite what's going on in the market, despite the limitations and the poor wage environments, they can indeed rise and they can indeed shine. So the environment is limiting, accepted, but conversations like this, where we can put information out there and give people what they need to excel, even in the limitations they find themselves in, I think is crucially important. And that's why I'm particularly honored and excited to be a member of this panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reginald. And I think I tend to agree with you. When you look at the salaries that are paid lawyers in the US and in the UK, for instance, Nigeria's salary is a far cry from that. So definitely this is a conversation that needs to be had now. And we need to look at it very seriously. So I'll just ask you the last, just to make a comment on how does this topic align with ongoing discussions on remuneration for young law professionals? How does our topic, that's today's topic, Rise and Shine, align? I think you've actually touched on it, but maybe you want to make one or two additional statements just for some emphasis.
No, I think that the conversation of today definitely does align with the discussions we're having on remuneration. And that's on the basis that, like I said previously, if you have the skills and the competencies and the knowledge that you need in today's marketplace, you can excel. The situation is not, it's not a death sentence, right? You can excel, and we have examples of them. In fact, I have a good friend of mine now who is currently in Mukund's firm in London, who came out of the Nigerian law school the year after me and who was snapped off after his master's in Oxford about 2 years ago. Now, so the limitations do exist. If we are able to get, to build ourselves up and build capacity and build competence, then a young law professional in sitting down and negotiating with an employer on remuneration and benefits can beat his or her chest and say, well, look, I bring value to the table. And on that basis, I cannot be paid at a certain pay point. That conversation only happens, I think, and only happens reasonably when that professional is able to demonstrate these skills and competencies that we are talking about right now, and that we will continue to talk about in the course of the panel discussions.
That's very correct. You can't, I mean, you couldn't have put it better. I think it's value. Definitely, when you bring value to the table, you're in a better position to negotiate for higher pay. And this also speaks to what Dwayne had said earlier, which is if we revamp the educational system, I guess lawyers will be more confident. They will have much more to bring to the table. If we could make some one or two additional improvements here and there, again, we're not totally writing it off. This would give the lawyers that we churn up today more confidence to negotiate better at the negotiation table when getting jobs. All right, so let's go into the discussion proper. And I will be asking the Leonard Silk this particular question. And it's a question that speaks to personal branding and getting creative, as well as mentorship. I mean, we can't but applaud how he has, the Leonard Silk has exceptionally established his law practice and saw to it from the point in time he finished the law school as a sole practitioner to being a Leonard Silk of one of the leading firms in Nigeria, including rising to the coveted rank of the senior advocate of Nigeria. There's a saying that a lawyer is only as successful as his or her brand. There is therefore no gainsaying that to achieve the success you have achieved, you and your firm have achieved over the years, you were very intentional, you were committed to building and grooming and upholding your brand. Can you tell us what your story is? What your story about rising to being a hero has been? How do you advise young law professionals to build their personal brands that make them stand out, shine, and continue to be profitable in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond?
Thank you, Madam Wola. So the different segments to your question, what's my story? My story is that I was forced into being a lawyer, and of course, I had to survive. And you know, for most people, if we begin to understand that this game is also a game of survival, then you begin to know that you need to put in more effort into whatever thing that you're doing. Unfortunately, for a lot of young lawyers, law as it is might not be a passion to them. It's just what they said they should go and do, you know, or some other people at some point, they see that, yes, I want to do this, but there are a lot of challenges. And you know what I tell a lot of young people around me? Whenever there is a problem, that has given you an opportunity to rise and shine. That has given you an opportunity to be seen by everybody. And if I may tie what Makund, Reginald, and Madam Adedoyin mentioned, in between understanding the new trend, in between having to ensure that you want also a good pay, and you want to ensure that you deliver in your firm, you know, there's a lot of hard work in the process that people do not see. So my story is this. I discovered that in the firm I was, of course, before I moved out on my own, I noticed that a lot of people just come to work and they don't apply themselves to that work. And I ensured that I was the closest to my boss. Whatever thing he was doing, I was the go-to person. I think Madam Adedoyin mentioned that there's some new lawyers that they're taking into our office. And the question really is this: how many of them are taking extra time, putting extra into the work that they're doing? Makunda has mentioned that they're doing something in Ghana, you know, doing some form of education for people outside the box. Yes. How many lawyers actually even do that? A lot of people will just sit in wherever they are and they say they are okay, whatever it is that they're doing. And then they want to negotiate fees. My question is this: how many lawyers can actually beat their chest and say that they are actually valuable to their offices? You know, and that's really the challenge. If you're not, this thing, it's a value-driven economy. If you're not valuable to the office, then really there's nothing that anybody, even if you negotiate from now till tomorrow, if you don't give me value, then there's nothing I can do about it. And you know, if you begin to think outside the box, like Madam Adedoyin said, begin to do the extras, begin to acquire the soft skills, begin to ensure that you know what it is that we need in this market space. And truth be told, for the young lawyers, a lot of these older lawyers, they depend on us, whether you like it or not. Every old lawyer depends on a young lawyer for survival. And if you begin to understand that in this profession, then you begin to thrive. And I say to the lawyers in my firm, if you go on leave, for example, and I don't call you, just know that you really are not that important to me. Mm-hmm. There are some people I beg, please don't go on leave. We try and negotiate it, find a way around it, because the person is really important to me. And so if someone that goes on leave and comes back and I did not call you, and then you come back and say you want a raise, I'll be like, okay, what, did you keep something here that you forgot that you want me to pay you out of? You know, and so that's the way it is. I think what is most important for all of us is, let us begin to put some value on the table, just like Reginald mentioned. We need to begin to put value on the table. Whatever sweet talking that we're saying to all the young lawyers, if you don't have value, if you don't put value on the table, it becomes a problem for you. And you know, like Reginald said, if you're that valuable, you can come back and say, I want this kind of pay, for example, and you already know you're making that kind of money. And so for me, my own story was, I just ensured that what was important to me in the profession was what I wanted to do. And I ensured as much as possible to be valuable to the people I worked for. And you know, It's just a value-based system. If you do not add value to your clients, then they will not come back. A client gives you work to do, and in this fast pace, somebody you know, another firm, if they walk up to the next firm, they will give you that value times 100, and you are not even giving them the value. Do you expect them to stay? And so maybe the most important thing for me is that all of us, all the young lawyers, all of us in this profession, we need to begin to think of value. What value do we create? What value do we add to our clients? What value do we add to the profession? What value do we add to our organization? What value do we add to ourselves? And that's it for me. Over to you, moderator.
Thank you very much. I think the emphasis on value cannot be lost in this discussion at all. We all need to just look at ourselves and look for and try and ensure that we build ourselves so that when we're at the negotiation table, we can definitely bring a lot of value to the table. And like you rightly said, nobody wants to work with someone who does not bring value. So for the young lawyers, it's bringing value. That's such a fantastic point. Let me ask a follow-on question. So what role do you think mentoring plays in all of this? I mean, what role, if any at all, does mentoring play in developing and grooming successful lawyers, both from a mentor and a mentee perspective? I know I listened to you at one of your sessions last Friday, at the session you had last Friday, and you mentioned, which really fascinated me, that you were mentored, quote and unquote, by S.A.N. Ogunwumiju. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. And he played a major role. Prior to your coming on, if I'm correct, I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong, he was the youngest son in Nigeria, and he mentored you. That's interesting. I think that was very exciting for me. You don't see a lot of cases like that. You don't see a lot of scenarios. So if you can just tell us, what role does mentoring play in developing and grooming successful lawyers?
Thank you, Madam Wola. Mentoring is, as far as I'm concerned, a very, very key aspect of growth in this profession. The way I see it is this: an individual has gotten to a particular spot, or, well, it's gone back and forth. Or let's even say you want to travel from Lagos to Abuja and you've never been there before. Then you have a tour guide, or you have somebody that can take you there. But of course, some other persons, of course, even Google, or what do we call it now? A Google app or maps can get you to wherever you're going to, right? That's the role of a mentor. He has been there. He understands the pitfalls. He understands what issues that you will face. He understands what extra efforts you need to put into it. And for me, I gladly say to everybody that one of the persons I revere, both of us are SANs, but if he walks into a room, I stand up, no matter wherever it is. That's how much I revere him. And because he's one person that understood the role of mentorship. And I also must say to you that he actually grouped about 7 of us. And I know that I took the key from Chief Afe Baola said. I liked Chief Afe from afar, but of course I cannot be close to him. But I know somebody that really walks like him, talks like him, acts like him, reads like him. And I just wanted to be like that. And you know, that made me, of course, inform my decision to being very close to Kehinde Ogunmiju SAN. And that usually, what I tell a lot of people is, whatever it is you need to do, somebody has gotten there before. Somebody has done it. Either in the corporate world, either you want to be a judge, either you want to be, or of course, on the street like us. There is somebody, imagine, Madam Ola, somebody ensures to be your mentee and wants to walk like you, talk like you, look like you, act like you. Mm-hmm. At some point, the person will begin to do stuff like you. You know, like Madam Adedoyin, somebody in your office, maybe a junior, understands your passion for the work and probably picks, I want to just be this passionate. And when we talk about mentorship is not, it's not that big. And you know, I must say that the problem that I see for most young lawyers when you talk about pupillage is the fact that they believe that, like one of the speakers said, you've done 5 years and this is now time to reap. As far as I'm concerned, you've done 5 years. It's like you're cooking food. You've only just parboiled the rice. The main dish, you've not even, you don't have an idea of what it is yet. But you need somebody that can show you and tell you. For me, I have of course, apart from law, I have other mentors outside the legal profession. One of my mentors is 67 years old. And he said to me very recently, and this is like last year, he mentioned that he was going to see his mentor. So I said, sorry, sir, at 67, you have a mentor. In fact, I thought it was a joke, but he said, no, I can't see you today. Also, because usually I see my mentors, well, for him, I see him towards the end of the year so that we'll talk about what we've done. And then, of course, beginning of the year. And he said, no, I can't see you this period. I need to go and sit down with my mentor. And I asked him, how old is your mentor? He said his mentor is about 89. And I'm like, wow. So if you're my mentor, you have a mentor, then I cannot get out of this business. I must always have somebody. As I am as an SAN, I have mentors. And I tell the juniors, I tell the young lawyers, it's just it's a springboard that helps you to get into wherever you want to get to. A number of times they say they like this person, but they cannot approach the person. I'll give you a story. Me and SAN, I knew her as far back as 2009 when she became SAN. I think she became SAN earlier. And I said, if a woman can do it, I will do it. And then I saw the way she talks. I saw the way she does her things. That's for me what was important. And in fact, I never spoke to her until last year for the very first time in my life. But she had been somebody I had followed for more than 9 years. And I tell a lot of people, the advantage that you have in mentoring or mentorship is the fact that the person that is showing you the light already knows where you're going to and can advise you and tell you and help you to adjust it. Over to you, moderator. Thank you, Madam Ola.
Thank you very much. I mean, while you were speaking, we ran a poll and we asked the audience questions around where they have gotten their best professional mentoring from. I want to read out the results. And we had 58% of them, which is the highest, say they got it from seniors. So it seems like a lot of senior people mentor younger ones more. And I think, there are options of their peers. There are also options of people who have never been mentored. We had 25% of them say they've never been mentored. And we have another 16% saying that they've had their peers mentoring them. So we can see that a lot of things you have said are actually true. This is a poll we run with the audience right now. I'll go to my next question, which will be to Mr. Mukund. Tell us, what role, if any, does the advanced foreign education and bar qualifications play in boosting opportunities for lawyers outside of their home countries? How can young lawyers explore and finance these options?
So that's an interesting question, because again, it really, I think in a sense, depends on your home country. And it also depends on, I think, the truth is that if you think about major financial centers, you think about London, you think about New York, you think about Singapore. If you have a degree from the United States, you don't need any further affirmation or any further confirmation of legal education. Whereas the perception, rightly or wrongly, if you came from other parts of the world, was you needed another degree to show that your basic legal knowledge was consistent with what was required. Now, I was lucky. I never did a degree outside of my home country, but almost everybody else I know who came from, in my case, from India and started working in the UK, many of them did multiple degrees before they got access to working in international markets. But you know what? What is interesting is how much it has changed since. And this goes back to, I think, a bit of mentorship. It goes back to exposure. It goes back to the market looking at people who they didn't work with previously and who they are working with and saying, well, that's perfectly okay. And to the extent that I think a number of Magic Circle firms have got direct recruitment out of Indian universities into their London offices without the need to do a second degree. And I think that is happening increasingly because of exposure. So I think, is it necessary? No, I don't think it is necessary, but I think it is good in the sense that it shows it confirms your commitment. I think it gives further confirmation and affirmation as to your legal education and your interest in upskilling, your interest in legal education. I think over time, the relative importance of that as a test to get hired is going to reduce. Because when I look around me in my department, we have 12 different nationalities. And nobody thinks about nationalities. We have more language than you can shake a stick at. Nobody thinks about it anymore. And I would certainly never in the real world go to somebody and say, well, I don't think I'm going to treat you seriously because you don't have a master's degree. That is the mistake that people make again and again, is to associate a degree with competence, capability, commitment, and dedication.
Correct.
Right? I think it is a mistake, but the fact of the matter is it does serve as a stamp, but with reducing importance in my view.
Yes, I agree with you considerably, Mukund. I mean, like, experience definitely speaks more if you have it. And what you bring to the table generally speaks a lot as well. So, I mean, you've made very, 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 very valid points. And I'll take that to a section I want Ms. Adedoyin Pierce to comment on. So in today's highly competitive legal markets, it's been suggested that knowledge of the law alone is not sustainable. The delivery of legal services now require knowledge of financial, technical, and business-related needs. So for instance, Ms. Pierce is a lawyer and she's currently enrolled for an executive MBA at the George's Business School, University of Cambridge, which is interesting for a lawyer. So, I mean, why, Ms. Pierce, if I can just ask, why didn't you just settle for your law degree? I mean, especially if we think to what Mukund said, why didn't you just settle for that? What added knowledge, professional fields, academic qualifications and certifications are needed by young lawyers to thrive in today's market, please?
Thank you, Ola, for the question. Interestingly, it took me a year or so to convince myself, together with my mentor and some very close friends, that was also the route to go. Like I mentioned earlier, the legal marketplace has changed. Back in the days, legal was a cost center. The business just comes to you when there's a problem. You help them identify the problem. If you have a good lawyer, you provide solutions. Otherwise, everybody is happy and everyone goes to bed. But that has changed completely, radically in the last 6, 7, 8 years, I must say.
Yes.
Now, legal is an integral part of the business. We have the same KPIs almost with the business. I spend half of my day attending strategy meetings, sales meetings, go-to-market conversations, sitting with customers, co-creating with customers, So most of the issues I deal with on a daily basis, it has gone beyond law. And I've also assumed greater responsibilities within the organization. And I'm speaking the business language more than the legal language. That's which is also a privilege I must acknowledge. I'm with my CEO, she's asking me questions even before strategy decisions are taken. Shareholders are calling me from the parent office, So basically that's the background. And I've also identified, of course, I have a career development plan as well. Yes, I'm the head of legal GC, but that doesn't mean that's the end of my career. I have a career plan as well. So essentially the decision to take the EMBA, the executive MBA, is for me to function effectively in my current role because my influence has gone beyond just legal matters. I need to also hone my management, my leadership skills. I've also identified that there are certain competencies I don't have yet to key in and work effectively with the business. Of course, I do receive feedback from the business as well. So, and beyond that, I also identified potential opportunities within the business, which I could fit into roles that could potentially come up, that I could step into. And you know, having the EMBA basically just provides me with that springboard, that bridge, you know, to be able to key into these potential opportunities while also aligning with my midterm and long-term goals. Can you remind me, I think there was another question you had posed, I can't.
I had asked why you didn't settle for just your law degree.
So basically because of all that, yeah, the law degree took me to where I am, but it's unable to sustain me. Looking at what my midterm and long-term career opportunities, midterm and long-term career plan, and also opportunities that currently exist within the organization.
Can you also just quickly speak to how lawyers can employ technology and innovation to their advantage in today's world? I mean, you have been leading discussions on issues bordering on law and technology, and I believe this is what led you to do the executive course you did in Madrid. So if you could just tell us, how can lawyers employ technology and innovation to their advantage in today's world?
Thank you, Wola. Just like the Leonard Silk said, you know, there are certain decisions you take because you just also have to survive. So my even venturing into tech in the first place was more of a necessity because the business model of my employer changed. We adopted the digitalization business model 7 years ago, even when I didn't even know what it was about. And as a result of the implementation of that model, our processes changed. We had an innovation strategy. You know, a lot of tools were rolled out across all functions within the organization, which was all to make us more efficient, to make us react quickly to customer needs and all of that. So in the course of implementing that, I had to start working with some of this innovative, disruptive technologies. I had the privilege to have access to some of these tools. And what did it do for us? It made us more efficient. We were able to automate a lot of the low-hanging jobs that will typically take your time. I'm sure a lot of lawyers know that the jobs that take your time are usually those very, you know, we spend hours reviewing non-disclosure agreements, you know, the bigger contracts don't even give you as much problems as the lower ones. So we were able to automate all these processes, all these low-hanging fruits, and we're able to focus more, you know, on the bigger topics, which was critical to the business. And as a result, we got more efficient. As a result, we saved cost. We started insourcing. We were able to key into other opportunities. We were able to use data more effectively. We were able to interpret the data we had. We were able to add value to the business. So back to the question, it was a survival thing. And of course, because of that layoffs, people also had to be made redundant because tech tools started taking over certain functions. Now, for young lawyers, I think COVID-19 has just taught us. 2-3 years ago, we were having these conversations. People were telling me, "Are they doing it on your own? We can do without technology. Why change what works?" You know, but COVID-19 came upon us, and it's amazing at the speed at which we all had to adapt. It was literally, we had under like 3 or 72 hours, and boom, webinars, Zoom meetings, you know. Right. So we all reacted very quickly. And what that just shows is that if we have the right mindset, yes, a lot can be done. And within the same COVID period, we have seen what we thought could not be done. Lawyers were saying you needed, you know, I have to see my client. I can't discuss some conversations over Teams meeting. I have to go to the office. You have to be in the office to file, you know. What we thought couldn't be done, we were able to do it remotely. And what happened? We saved costs. We were able to service clients. In fact, it was a survival line for a lot of law firms, yes, you know. Even the regulators, the court also reacted, you know, we had virtual court hearings. So I think the conversation have gone beyond, do we even need tech? It has come to stay, and I don't see that changing. And coming with it are threats. Well, I think we need to have a change mindset, look at the opportunities that comes with it. We are able to use data more effectively. We are sitting on data. Law firms are sitting on, I can't even overemphasize this. I, as a head of legal, when I assumed my role, I had no file to work with. I had to liaise with, with lawyers who had files as far back from when the company was incorporated. I'm telling law firms right now that you are sitting on a gold mine called data. We must be able to structure our data. We must have the right skills to be able to interpret data. We must be able to gain insights, and from that insight, turn them into opportunities. I don't want to hear law firms bragging that I handle 10 HR cases or labor cases for Siemens. No, it's not something to brag about. I want law firms that will tell me that, Adedoyin, we think there's a problem. We have examined certain trends in the last 3 to 5 years. On an average, you have 5 HR cases every year. That means over a period of 10 years, you probably have 20 or 40 cases. It means there's a problem. We need to come in and check your HR processes. Those are the conversations we should be having, and technology provides that opportunity. We also have virtual hearings now. I know there are still conversations around the constitutionality. There are conversations about infrastructural challenges, but beyond the problems are also opportunities. We are seeing a lot of startups coming up. I think it provides an opportunity for electronic dispute resolution. We are going to see more lawyers who have programming skills. I have a lot of young lawyers I'm mentoring who wants to code. They want to develop apps. They don't even want to call developers. I actually code, but I don't have the time. And they come to me to say, Adedoyin, please teach me. I want to, I actually want to create a product. And these are the sort of opportunities which adopting technology, brings to us. So we should strive as much as possible to develop the skill sets, the competencies, to key into these opportunities and stop whining. Lawyers, we are too overly critical. We are too overly critical. We should look beyond the challenges, look for solutions. We have infrastructural challenges, no doubt. There's no doubt about it. But let's see beyond the problems and key into the opportunities that comes with it. There are opportunities for startups as well. I have mentioned before, we don't have enough jobs out there, to cater for all the graduates. So these are the opportunities technology brings on board. Some roles are going to go, don't let's pretend about it. The low value, the back end admin roles will go. If you hold those roles, this is the time to start upskilling. Don't wait for the time to come and blame your employers for being unfair and the labor law. Seize the opportunity right now. And I because of time, I wish I could dwell on other things. But I must also emphasize another topic, and I'm also passionate about. We must have the right mindset. It's not just about having the skill set. The mindset is equally important. Look beyond the problems, be adaptive, be flexible, be agile. Times are changing really very fast. So because you have skills today does not mean by tomorrow the skill sets you have acquired are dated. So we need to constantly upskill so that we can key into all the opportunities that are available in the market. And you find yourself that even at age 70, you are still active, there's still work for you to do. So it's not the time to say I'm retiring or there's no work, I have nothing to do. And I'm over to you, Wola.
Thank you so much, Adedoyin. As usual, you pack a punch, as usual. We ran a poll while you were speaking, and we basically asked 2 areas that are most important to the career development of our audience, and that's over the next year. And like you rightly mentioned, 57% of them said the use of technology. They considered it one of the most important skills that they must have. The other poll that ranked next to that is specialization in a defined area of practice. So we see more and more that technology continues to lead the discussion these days. I mean, we're having a virtual conference. Who would have thought so a couple of years ago? But here we are today. Mr. Reginald Aziza, my next question goes to you. You have been able to build a brand both online and offline successfully. You have significant followership on LinkedIn and other related platforms. Amongst young law professionals who often defer to you as a point of inspiration? I mean, at a young age, you have done so much. How can young law professionals build an online network or fellowship that transforms into opportunities and financial gain?
Thank you very, very much for the question. And I mean, I'm very happy and grateful for the compliments. The truth is that I've often gone to places where, upon introducing myself, I hear, I know the name. I must have known it from somewhere. And where a lot of that comes from is like you say, the online presence and the both online and offline. So it does help. It does create value. But perhaps the more important question is, how do people go about this? And perhaps in that conversation, are there any tips I can share on this? I can start with a very simple proposition. And that proposition is that everything online has been published. Because for something to be hosted on the web, it has been published by someone somewhere. In actual fact, on my doctoral program right now, I am citing as references tweets coming out of President Trump on capital markets policy. I'm citing as references YouTube videos coming out of Nobel laureate economists. And what that means is that the definition of what is published has changed significantly, perhaps due to technology, as Ms. Pierce has told us today. Now, if everything online has been published, the simple logical next step is that to have an online brand and presence, you must put yourself out there and you must publish as frequently as you can possibly do. Now, 3 key things in this conversation. One is consistency. You must be consistent in putting things out there, in putting yourself forward, in shaping and framing conversations. But having mentioned consistency, the take-home point here is not, well, the MBA conference said I should publish and therefore I publish. And I publish on things that concern me and things that don't concern me. No, that's not the point. You should consistently be out there on number 2, things that are relevant. Now, relevance here is a function, in my opinion, of different things. My most successful public commentary, for instance, was on academics. It was on good grades. And I've had people from all over the world, really, mail me on LinkedIn to say, I read this commentary, I see the value in taking academics seriously, and I'm going back into school to do something now to upskill myself, to get some additional qualifications. Relevance is ultimately, in my opinion, a function of the audience. Now, what does the audience find relevant in the present circumstances? Quite recently, we had the signing of the new Competence and Allied Matters Act into law by the president. And I was very impressed to see a lot of young lawyers come out and have conversations around the innovations of the act. There were miscommunications in public spaces, and people came out and put views out there. They tried to shape and frame conversations. So you must be consistent, and you must be consistent in things that are relevant. But consistency and relevance, in my opinion, will not quite do the trick. The third thing you must do is you must add value, and the SAN has spoken a lot today about value. You must consistently add value on things that are relevant. Now, how do you add value in public debates? How do you add value when you are speaking on things? I set a fairly simple test. And this was a test that I developed for my undergraduate days. When I was a student, my simple test going into an exam was not what the question was in front of me. But that test was, can my examination script shape the way my examiner is viewing the particular issue? And I deployed that in a number of different subjects, of course, depending on who the examiner was. But the point is, you add value if your conversations on a point can do one or both of two things. One, it can frame a conversation such that people who have seen what you've put out there have a different way of thinking about that issue. Secondly, you can add value if your commentary, what you put out there, can help a person take a different decision. Now, if what you're putting out there is therefore relevant and it meets these tests, I think consistently people will be drawn to you and they want to know what are your opinions on this particular thing. How do you view this? When I came up with this piece, for instance, on remuneration, this was in context of the NBA elections. And I had conversations with the contestants on the election on this because it became a conversation point. It became a topic for discussion. Now, I should highlight a few potential roadblocks on the way. It's not a popularity contest. And I think this is one thing that LinkedIn and Twitter and social media more broadly may try to do. It's not a popularity contest. The determination of how much value you add is not a function of how many likes or comments or retweets your post has. It's a function, like I said, of quality, of how do people think about this thing, having seen what you have put out there. And secondly, we must keep in mind the potential downsides of social media. I mean, it's one of the greatest tools that we have in today's world. Unfortunately, however, it's also one of the most destructive. So you do not use social media, you don't use these avenues and publishing more generally. You don't use that as a way of testing yourself and saying, well, am I good enough? And the measure point is based on how many comments or likes I get. That's not what you're trying to achieve. You're trying to be consistent, you're trying to be relevant, and you're trying to add value. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Reginald. Unfortunately, we have actually, that would have to be my last question because I need to open the session up for questions so that we can answer as many questions as possible from the audience. I'd actually hoped we would have about 30 minutes for Q&A, but we are left with 15 minutes. So I will just start and ask the audience to please post their questions. So I have a few questions here and I'll read them out. Most of them don't really, are not addressed to anyone, at least the ones I'm seeing now. I'll read them out. So the person says, I'm a young lawyer who is serving at the moment. And I just found out that I love medical malpractice law. Would appreciate if I can get a contact of, oh my goodness. All right. So that one is, the person is asking for a contact. I think we'll take that later. Another question from someone called Favor Njoko. And she says, how do you forgive an employer that did not appreciate the value you brought into the office? For the years you were under his employment, you never went on leave because he created an impression that no other employee could fill the gap. However, he didn't think twice before he sacked you because he got to know you and had an offer from another firm by invading your personal email, a job you didn't get because of COVID-19. And now that you have left his employment, he calls weekly to ask for ideas, including business development. Will this experience not discourage you from doing your best in the next place of employment? I would like to call the Leonard Silk to answer this question because I know he touched on that particular question. So Leonard Silk, if you may just answer the question. I believe as the leader of a law firm, you can address such an issue most appropriately.
Okay, Madam Favor, sorry that you got fired. On behalf of the senior, please, we apologize. But then, from what you have said, there is really a bright light if the person still calls you. And like I mentioned, it means now that you're valuable. Why don't you charge him? Well, I would be shocked if you're doing that for free. You guys can have, I was speaking to a friend yesterday, and then she mentioned unpaid partnership or paid partnership, and you can do it, based on understanding. Most times, what I tell a lot of people is, life has just been designed in a way to keep all of us in a box. And of course, life has now designed it for you to be out of that box. And that same person that fired you now really needs your effort. Why don't you have an understanding or an arrangement with the office to say, oh, I will do this for you at whatever basis or commission that you're going to give it to me. And that's one aspect that you can see. The other aspect that you mentioned is because of the way you've been treated, will you still put in your best in the next place of your assignment? Now, this one is me being as frank and as honest as possible. It has everything to do with you, in the sense that the person that has unfortunately let you go, that did not know your value, you cannot carry that baggage along to your next place of assignment. It would affect your work. What is most important, and like I say to a lot of young people, young persons, is be selfish about your lives. And what I mean by that is this: if you give your best and everybody knows that wherever you're going to is your best, then they will call you everywhere. But if you do not give your best, it's a problem. And so think about not necessarily about what people will say about you, but the value that you will give out, And so please do not allow what has happened to you in the past, to affect wherever you're going to. And of course, it sounds like you have a lot of value. What I advise is keep ensuring that you keep looking for where you can add value, and please let bygones be bygone. Sometimes seniors are like that. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you very much, Leonard Silk. Thank you very, very much. I have another question from Emmanuel Agungu. I hope I pronounced it correctly. My apologies if I did not. How can one receive mentoring from a person you have not seen or been in touch with? What can one do where there is difficulty in getting a mentor? I have this particular mentor question in varying ways, written in various ways from different members of the audience. So maybe I'd like to call on Miss Pierce to please answer this question. I'd also like Mukund to answer from an international perspective as well. So Miss Pierce, if you could just say something about this.
First of all, I think the young lawyers are even opportune. In my time, which wasn't too far away, mentoring was quite alien. There are a lot of platforms out there right now that provide mentorship opportunities. I would advise you key into that. There's several of them, not-for-profit organizations, offering mentorships, some for free, some you just pay a little, a marginal participation fee. They work with you, look at your career interest, and they match you with mentors. I actually belong to one of those platforms, and through that platforms, I've also been matched with some mentees as well. So I'll encourage you to explore that option. If the person you aspire or who you look up to, if it's someone you know, of course, you feel free to approach. I have approached people in the past. And if you feel you don't have that relationship with that person, there's also there's also peer mentoring as well. And a lot of young wigs are keen into that. I also have a young mentor, a 25-year-old mentor as well. So feel free to look within your space. I don't know whether you're still a university student or wherever, just feel free to look around. If there's any of your peers who is doing very well, there are a lot of young people, doing extremely well, doing several things. You can also approach them and have one of your peers mentor you. So I will encourage you to key into these two options I have profiled. Thank you, Ola.
Thank you, Ms. Pierce. Mukund, do you want to say something about that, please?
Yeah, I mean, generally in terms of mentors, and I've had some mentors who've been transformational for my life, right? I think my first piece of advice would be, do not ask a stranger. You cannot go and ask a stranger, will you be my mentor, and expect, even if the person says yes, for the person to genuinely be a mentor. So please don't say, hey, can I be a mentor? That doesn't work. Now, that doesn't mean you cannot look at a person who you admire who you want to learn from, who you want to be a mentor, and establish a relationship with them. Get in touch with them, collaborate with them on something, get engaged with the kind of work that they're doing, the kind of pro bono work they're doing, the kind of committees they're involved with, become more visible to them, establish some sort of a relationship. And then I think you are talking about establishing a relationship of mentorship. And sometimes you don't even need to ask. Very often, a mentor is a person who will look at you and you will look at the person, and there will be a relationship of mentorship which has grown because of your collaboration. That's one point. I think another point is, please be somebody who's enjoyable to your mentor, right? Like, life is hard enough as it is without having to take on, and I say burden, it's a bit of a harsh word, but mentorship is a responsibility both ways, right? So please be enjoyable for a mentor. It should be a mutually enjoyable relationship where the mentor enjoys talking to you and you enjoy hearing from the mentor, and you feed back to the mentor, because as somebody pointed out, mentors can be junior to you. You need to be able to contribute to that relationship as well. And then the usual stuff, right? I mean, the usual stuff, you have to be good, you have to be passionate, you have to be committed, and you, in everything that you do with the mentor, has to reflect the best of you. And that is when you will get the best from the mentor. Suboptimal input, suboptimal mentorship. I'll stop there.
Thank you very much, Mukund. I generally tend to agree with you. I think a lot of mentees also need to just be careful of the fact that their mentors are very busy. So they need to honestly just keep at it. I think another platform that we may talk about is LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn, I wouldn't recommend Instagram, but LinkedIn is a fantastic place to generally approach a mentor. I've had a lot of people approach me on LinkedIn. So I think, and a lot of our panelists are here on LinkedIn as well. If you approach them properly, they would definitely engage you and see how they can support you in one way or the other. I have a question here, and it says, the whole conversation, technology advancement, from the conversation, technology advancement is a given, but what about specialization? Would you say specialization is much better than going for general development? Reginald, would you please be kind enough to take that question? Do you think specializing in a particular area of law is much better than going for a general development?
Thank you very much. I think ultimately, at some point in a person's career, it may be something that you most likely have to do. Now, when we talk about specialization, we don't mean that has to be the only thing you do, right? Because a senior advocate of Nigeria, for instance, most likely got the rank from courtroom advocacy. However, that senior advocate could also be a very strong player, even in transactional roles. So specialization doesn't mean that you are exclusively focused on one thing, but it means that the market best knows you for one thing or for a few things, and then you have other areas of interest where you're also a core player. Now, one thing that I learned when I was working in a law firm in London is that it can be helpful at some point in your career to define your market. And you can potentially define your market across 3 broad areas. One is category, where you are either a transactional or a disputes lawyer. 2 is the sector of focus, where you can be in a tech space, in telecoms, corporate finance, energy and oil and gas, whatever it is. And within that, you also have sub-specialisms. And 3 is a jurisdiction focus, where, for instance, if you're in Mukund's firm, you can be specialized in Africa-related work or Middle Eastern work or Latin America, whatever it is. And when you put that together, you could get to a point where your market focus, for instance, is corporate finance, transactions, London, banking, litigation, Middle East, maritime, arbitration, Lagos. And what that does is to create, like I said, that core area of focus. It doesn't mean that that is what you exclusively do, but I think at some point it's helpful to have that for every practitioner. Thank you.
Okay, so Ms. Pierce, a lot of people are asking for the mentoring platforms you mentioned. So if you could just go over them again. I know you mentioned 2. A lot of questions are coming on what the platform is. I know you mentioned 2 mentoring platforms.
First of all, I think the 2 I readily know, they're actually for women. So yes. there's WIMBIZ, there's a mentoring platform on WIMBIZ. There's WISCA, Women in Successful Careers as well. There are quite a handful of them. I wish I could have all the answers, but I know quite a number of young lawyers belong to one or the other. I know the University of Lagos, because I'm also very close to my alumni there. They also have, there's a program they have in place right now for current students. That's actually for current students as well. So please feel free to do a search online to check this, the several options, platforms you can key into. Go on LinkedIn as well. A lot of these platforms are very active on social media, and also just have conversations with your colleagues as well, because quite a number of young lawyers belong to one of these platforms.
Yes, I mean, if I may just add, we also have the NBA, although like you mentioned, it's a women's forum. There's an NBA women's forum where they do a lot of mentoring as well. I know I got a couple of mentees assigned to me from that. So that also happens. And I think they could also log into that. I don't know, does anyone of the panelists know if you know anyone that either for both the male and the female lawyers, or just the male lawyers? I mean, we tend to, myself and Ms. Doing seem to be more in tune with the female one. I don't know, Reginald, do you know any male platforms? Maybe we could mention 1 or 2 if you know. A lot of people seem to be interested in that, but I mean, if there's none, then okay. I think maybe does someone want to say something?
I don't have male platforms, but I know, for instance, the section of business law has some.
Correct.
Correct. And that won't be gender specific.
Correct.
But I think I could have a little look around and maybe put up something on LinkedIn.
Correct. Yes, maybe you should put up. Thank you. I'd greatly appreciate that, Reginald. I know there's also women in energy.
Madam Ola, I was going to mention that everybody here can be mentors to people. Please, panelists, attendees, just look for them.
LinkedIn, look for them on LinkedIn. Give them an email.
Bug them. Don't. My own approach is don't let them advise you to say go and look for somebody like Madam Bola, for example. Please bug her. Madam Adedoyin, bug her. For Makund and Reginald, please just bug them and keep being at their faces. I'm sure they will.
I'll be sending a mail to the Learned SCN after this panel
to mentor you. Smart guy. That's very good. And you know, it's a good thing you mentioned that Learned SCN, because a lot of people have also have complained about mentors not having their time. And it's good you said that, because the truth is you need to bug them. I mean, I'm a mentor to quite a number of people, and honestly, you need to just bug them. They create time for you. But when you have so many people, I mean, the NBA has hundreds of thousands of people, it can be really difficult. So you just need to bug them and let them see that, I mean, the importance of you having them, things like that. You know, also mentors should create time, but we understand how difficult this can be in today's working environment. So it was a good thing you touched on that. We've actually reached the end of our session. I still have over 60 questions here. I'm so sorry, unfortunately, we can't take any more questions. I'm even afraid they would log us out very soon for taking too much time. And so with, you know, I mean, with ending with those questions, I need to let me just close the session formally. And I must start by saying it's been a fantastic learning opportunity. We've had an amazing panel comprising of law professionals that have made their marks at the highest level in courts, outside of the courtroom, in-house, and academics. And mind you, all these people are young people and they've made their marks already. So I just want to, first of all, thank them for their time. we couldn't have honestly asked for a better panel. And I hope the panel has been able to open our minds. If I'm going to talk about a few areas that the panel emphasized on, which is building yourself. There was a lot of talk about developing your capacity. There was also a lot of talk about value, bringing value to the table. There was a lot of emphasis on needing a mentor. And a lot of questions came from the mentoring aspect. So that tells us that a lot of the participants see that they need mentors. So, and they need mentors from senior people. So I think it's a charge to those of us who are a little bit more senior or who have gone very far in our careers to pick a few of them and see how we can mentor them. So as some experts have predicted, we may be living with the pandemic for a very long time. It is therefore not the end of our lives or professional careers. Also, as we have heard from the speakers, it is not the time to wallow in self-pity. Now more than ever, lawyers need to be dynamic, adaptable, and more strategic to remain relevant. While the learning experience has been nothing short of expectation, the objectives of the panel session will be fully actualized when active steps and actions are made towards planning and executing what we have learned. The pandemic is definitely no longer an excuse not to work towards our goals and ambitions. We have been equipped with the necessary tools to rise and shine despite the pandemic, and we should all endeavor to make the best of it. I thank the NBA for the opportunity to moderate this very engaging panel, for the opportunity to even meet them. A couple of them are meeting for the first time, and that would not have been possible but for the NBA. It is always an honor and privilege to contribute to our noble profession and activities of the Bar Association in any little way that I can. I must also recognize the selfless efforts of my coordinators, my able president of the Nigerian Young Lawyers Forum. This session was actually strategically put together by the Young Lawyers Forum. So this is a huge kudos to Toby Adebowale. He has done an amazing job. Also, Adetola Adebesin, honestly, two of you are amazing from putting all of us together and ensuring we are all on point. These two brilliant and exceptional lawyers worked tirelessly with me and the panelists to ensure that we give you the best from this session. I also want to thank someone who worked with me personally, Pooja Albert and Ihoma Chukwuka, two of my colleagues at work. I want to thank both of you most sincerely. They worked with me in ensuring that this session is what it is today. I also want to thank and appreciate each of the panelists who have taken time out of their busy schedules to share their experiences and knowledge with us. Unfortunately, Mr. Kende Ogunwumiju, SAN, was also supposed to be on the panel but could not make it for reasons beyond his control. I can assure you that he was quite sad by the fact that he couldn't make this session. Finally, and most importantly, we thank you, the conferees, for attending this session, listening to us and making insightful contributions. Without you, this panel session will not serve any purpose. Till when we meet again in future, let us all stay safe and shine like the stars we all are. Thank you and God bless you all. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Madam Moderator.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.